Hello and welcome to Otakunomics, the business world behind anime. I'm your host, Chris, aka TE Anubis. I'm an entrepreneur with She's Lost Control Media, which is my media company and business consultancy. Shinikiba Anime Goods, where I sell anime figures. The 521 Company, which is a convention-focused travel product company. I also do a couple podcasts, NTR Radio, which is a general purpose anime podcast, and another podcast also by the name of Otakunomics, which discusses the business world behind anime. I also run my own platform called Iyashike, talking about the otaku the otaku culture in general, as well as Task Force MOE, which is a niche image board I run. So, anime is big business, we all know that, but how big is it exactly? The the Jap- the Association of Japanese Animators found that in 2017 it grew to a market capacity of 2.153 trillion yen. That's about $19.8 billion. We know that it's grown steadily since 2010, and we know that around 46% of that revenue comes from overseas. And to compare, that's the film industry in general. The entire film industry of the United States is 43 billion. So it's just under half. Anime specifically is just under half the revenue for the film industry, the entire film industry in the United States. So let's break it down. We've got $19.8 billion. From bottom to top, we're looking at 989 million from TV. That's regular television advertising. Box office, 379 million. Home video, that's anime on Blu-ray and other home video media, 707 million. Internet, that's streaming basically, looking at 496 million. Now we get to the first big one, which is merchandise. That's anime figures, that's your hug pillow covers, that's your glasses cases, any all this character good stuff, all the stuff that I sell at Shinikiba. That's a $4.8 billion industry for anime. Moving on, music, 241 million. Then when you go to the next one, which is overseas, that's the 40 something percent we mentioned earlier, $9.2 billion coming from overseas. And overseas is an aggregation of all of these categories, but for overseas. So it's overseas box office, overseas home video, all of that. Pachinko, interesting, is 2.5 billion. So licensing anime properties out to pachinko machine companies is a massive industry. And then live events tops it off at 569 million. So, how does anime work as a business model? Why do companies make anime in the first place? So back in 1993, after the 1980s bubble collapsed from Japan. So in the 80s you had a whole bunch of these highly original OVAs coming out. They were usually one-offs. It's just, okay, a company's got an idea, let's make an anime about that because we know it's going to make some money and we have money to burn. Once the bubble burst, all that money was gone. So we had to come up with a way to keep producing more anime because it was still a growing industry, but nobody had the money independently to start funding all these anime projects. So what they came up with was this thing called a production committee. Now, what happens is we're gonna make an anime. Here's what we need. We need around $2 million. We're gonna need TV networks to broadcast it on. We're gonna need music to put in the anime. We're gonna need merchandise to sell. We're gonna need domestic distribution, and we're gonna need international distribution. And then of course we need the anime to actually get made. So we need a production committee. Production committee is a collection of companies that collaborate to fund, plan, and produce an anime. They're gonna get together, pool resources, pool money, plan out the thing, and then they're gonna hire a company to actually handle the production. Now, the problems it solves is one is that it allows companies to make specialized decision making. So I'm a TV company. My domain is TV. I don't need to I don't need to mess around with the music. I don't need to do any of that. I'm handling the TV portion. The music company is going to handle the music portion. The anime specific company, they're going to handle all the specific parts of that make this an anime. It allows for multiple revenue streams, and we're going to get into that a little bit later on in the presentation. But basically, anime makes a lot of money through multiple revenue streams, and that's what makes this business model successful. It's part of what makes it successful. But all potentially most importantly is that the production committee business model distributes risk. And what that means is I'm not putting my company at at a massive amount of risk if this anime project fails by making it. So because you have a whole bunch of companies all pooling their resources, every company is contributing a little bit to it, which means if God forbid the project fails, then no one company is out however much massive amount of money, and it's not going to kill their business if this anime fails. So let's take a look at the best anime of 2018, Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Here's its production committee. We've got Aniplex, which is a just general anime distribution company. Anime is what they do. We got ABC Animation, which is a TV station. Karakawa, which is the publisher of the original light novel that the anime is based off of. We got Tokyo MX, the TV station, Nagoya Broadcast Network, the TV station, BS11, the TV station, and Hakuhodo DY Music and Pictures, which is a distribution company. In addition to all those, we have a whole bunch of advertising partners. Now, what happens a lot of the time is companies in an area where an anime takes place understand that that anime taking place in that area is going to bring people to that area. So they might want to sign on with the production to be able to say, okay, let's have our store in this anime. So you see they had the Fujisawa Public Library. In the background of the picture there and taking place in the anime is the Fujisawa Public Library. The Enoshima Electric Railway was featured very heavily in the show as well. Now, you'd be forgiven for asking, where's Cloverworks? We know Cloverworks made the anime. They're the ones who put pen to paper and actually made this wonderful animation we all enjoyed. Where are they? The answer is, not every studio gets to sit on the production committee of animes they make. More and more studios have become able to do that, but in the very recent past, that was an anomaly. What happens is a lot of studios don't have the extra money to be able to invest in their own productions. So because they don't have any money to put in, they don't get to sit on the committee. And a lot of the time, and what it comes down to is that the studio is hired to make the anime, and that's basically about it. The studio doesn't really have any need or desire to sit on the production committee and become part of that process. So, what does this mean? It means the studios have fewer revenue streams. It means the studios need to increase their workload in order to sustain themselves. It ultimately means that the rank and file staff, the people making the anime, aren't paid very well and have poor working conditions at times. Some studios are better than others, but generally speaking, as far as the anime industry goes, the anime industry is infamous for poor working conditions and low pay for its animators. So we can look at the differentiation between revenue streams of production committees versus anime studios. With production committees, here's where we're going to make money. We're going to sell the original light novel or the original manga or whatever it's based off. We're going to sell the music. We're going to sell merchandise. We're going to sell discs. We're going to sell TV ad revenue. We're going to license it internationally to other companies so they can show the anime in the US or in France or wherever. For animation studios, they get a budget from the production committee to make the anime. They maybe get funding from a parent company if they have a close relationship. And to go back to the example, Cloverworks does have a close relationship with Aniplex, so they probably receive some funding from Aniplex on some level. They might get a cut of the disc profits. They might get a cut of the merchandise profits. It depends on the contract that they sign with the production committee. So now we've made our anime, we've done our production committee. What are we going to do with it? And the answer is we're gonna use it to sell whatever the original work was. So most late night anime, which is a lot of the anime that we end up caring about, there are daytime anime that are made more for children, things like Saze-san and Doraemon, and those primarily rely on TV ad revenue. But because the prospects for TV ad revenue are so low for late night anime, this is stuff that airs between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. It's like the infomercial time slot. It's not relying on TV ad revenue to make money. It's relying on being able to sell the source material and also being able to sell itself as an anime. So anime is designed to make money over long periods of time via multiple revenue streams, and it's very successful at that. Only around 30% of anime fail to make a profit eventually. So if you're in the anime business, it might take a while, but you're almost guaranteed to make money if you stay in the business. And that's one reason the anime industry is so successful. It's insulated against risk because it makes money via multiple revenue streams over a long period of time. So how we're going to make money? We're going to sell ads on the TV broadcast. We're going to sell the source material. We're going to sell it on home video. We're going to sell figures, character goods, merchandise. We're going to sell the music. We're going to sell the rights to stream it domestically. We're going to sell the rights to stream it internationally. And we're going to sell the rights to put it on home video internationally. Okay, and once again, begs the question, what happens to the studios? And it depends on the contract and depends on the studio. Some studios have enough power, enough money to sit on the production committees, and some don't. Most of the revenue just passes through the committee. So if you're a lot of the time, a lot of the sales revenue that's going to pass through to the committee, unless it's stipulated in the contract that the studio is entitled to part of that. Maybe the studio might get a cut of the disc sales. Maybe the studio might get a cut of the merchandise sales. It's up in the air, and we really don't know and can't know. And studios with close ties with production companies. So Studio Sunrise is a very close relationship with Bandai. A1 Pictures is a very close relationship with Aniplex. They're going to get some money from their parent companies. But otherwise, the studio has to fend for itself. And they're out here trying to get these contracts to make these anime. And it's a toss-up as to whether they're going to make it just enough money to sustain themselves, or whether it's going to be a more lucrative contract for them. Now let's talk about the 46%, international licensing. So a licensing firm like Funimation or Crunchyroll, Sentai Filmworks, they're going to pay the production committee for the right to sell, stream, broadcast, merchandise, and anime for a specific region outside of Japan. So there are some terms involved. There's a minimum guarantee, which is an upfront licensing fee. This is the gate in. So Funimation is going to pay the production committee a specified amount of money in order to license the anime. In addition, there are going to be more terms. You've got adjusted gross revenue. So after Funimation makes back the money they paid for the minimum guarantee, as well as the money that they put in to produce the anime for the Western market, the production committee is now entitled to a percentage of all sales after that. The term is how long the license lasts. Sell-off is after the term ends. Funimation, for example, has a period of time during which they're going to be able to sell their stock and basically get rid of their stock before they're not allowed to sell it anymore. And then the territory is where the license is valid. So you're going to license a show for a specific territory. So what international licensing does is it helps the committee make extra money without having to do any extra work. It basically farms out the task of bringing a show over, translating it into whatever language they're translating it into, localizing it, maybe putting an alternate language dub on there, putting the subtitles on there, republishing it for another region. It farms all that out to a different company that's more specialized in doing that. They're better than the licensing firm at doing that, which is why they're better than the production committee at doing that, which is why the production committee is willing to let them do that to their property. And they're also paying the production committee for the privilege. So it's a win-win on all sides. So we have a couple business models over here internationally that affect the anime industry. So two main business models for international sales of anime are home video and streaming. And under home video, you have two sub models. You have the mass market model and you have the collective focus model. So mass market model, you see cheaper releases, you're seeing them around at the very low end, $20, $30. At the medium end, you're looking at maybe around $60 to $80. you don't they're very bare bones releases. You're gonna have the subtitles, you're gonna have the dub track on there, but you're not gonna have a whole lot of extras, and they're gonna end up being of varying quality because the focus is on putting out as many as possible and as quickly as possible. So a lot of Media Blasters, Funimation, Sentai Filmworks to an extent, they do a lot of these kinds of releases. Then you have the collector focused releases, which are more expensive. You're looking at 80, 90 at the low end, into the 100s or $200 ranges at the mid to high end. You're looking at a lot of extras, a lot of the time physical extras as well. And these are more quality focused. And what happens is a lot of fans get priced out of the market as a result. I actually have some examples that I can show you. Give me a second. So, I have the Sentai Filmworks releases of Engaged to the Unidentified and Amagi Brilliant Park. Now, when we're talking about mass market releases, Engaged to the engaged Sentai Filmworks Engaged to the Unidentified is one of the quintessential examples. It's very inexpensive. Two discs. I think it has like 8 episodes on one disc and the remaining 4 on the other, or something like that. Subtitle track, some trailers, and that's about it. The packaging is bare bones. Everything about it is bare bones. Then you look at something like the Magi Brilliant Park release, and limited edition release, and this is coming out in a full box. You get the entire show on both DVD and Blu-ray. You have a physical art book coming with it. You've got a little activity box with all sorts of extras. I think this one also comes with a fold-out board game. It's got buttons. It's got pins. It's got all sorts of little extras that they're desirable by people who really like the show. And that's the essence of the collector's release, is that you don't have to rely on doing a whole lot of marketing to make these releases successful. You can almost guarantee, and this is what companies like Aniplex of America, NIS America, and this is what Pony Canyon US tried to do, is you can guarantee that the people buying these releases, these collectors focused releases, have already watched the show on a streaming service and already know about the show, already want the show, and you don't have to commit resources, commit extra money to marketing these releases because the people who want them already know about them. Now, as an aside, a lot of people know that Japanese discs are very expensive. Even their mass market releases are the same price of some of our collectors releases, and they're paying that much for 2 episodes per disc. And that's a long running paradigm. So, and there's a story behind it. So, back in the day, if you wanted to get something on, well, back then it was videotape, VHS. A lot of the time, if it was something that's very mainstream, it was readily available. But because something niche like anime was not expected to sell very many copies, a lot of the copies that did sell went to video rental stores. And because of the business model behind video rental stores, they actually pay a whole lot more for their merchandise than a regular consumer would at the store. The reason for this is because the rental store is expected to make that money back through renting that particular the particular tape out over multiple cycles. Now, what people weren't expecting were the otaku, and the otaku don't care. They want their anime, and they're willing to pay basically literally any price for it. So what ended up happening was a lot of highly passionate fans went and bought up all went and bought up these anime tapes even at high video rental store prices. And what happened there was the pricing strategy just stuck. There wasn't any reason for the companies to lower their prices because the otaku were going to buy it anyway. And in fact, they tried lowering their prices to get more people to buy, but it ended up resulting in less revenue overall because even lowering the prices weren't persuading more people to buy anime. The people who wanted anime bought anime anyway, and the people who weren't buying anime, they weren't buying it not because of the price, they just didn't want it. So the pricing strategy stuck, and that's why if you're importing Blu-rays or DVDs from Japan, they're going to be a lot more expensive, and you're going to get a lot less on the disc because this is a very old pricing strategy that just stuck. Anyway, continuing, we're going to talk about streaming now. Now, streaming is heavily mass market, it's heavily marketing driven. It's a much faster moving segment of the industry, and you're looking, instead of getting people to buy individual releases, you're looking at getting people to buy subscriptions, as well as some ad supported stuff, but primarily you're looking at subscriptions. Now, Crunchyroll's business model is they got an $8 a month subscription. They sell figures and merchandise, and they make their own original media. They also have one more part of their business model that we're going to talk about a bit later. A funny story about their figures, actually. So, Crunchyroll, Tokyo Otaku Mode, the Faku store, and also my own Shinikiba anime goods. If you're looking at any high quality scale figures they sell other than from Kotobukiya, as well as things like Figmas and Nendoroids, all those are coming out of the same company. So it's one major company that has a close relationship with Good Smile Company, which produces the Nendoroid and Figma series. One major company in the US serving a whole lot of large and small anime stores. But anyway, moving on. So here's how Crunchyroll's business model works. And this is coming from a interview with Crunchyroll's CEO at the time. So Crunchyroll CEO, basically what happens is your monthly Crunchyroll subscription is divvied up based on what you're watching. So if you spend half your time watching Naruto and half your time watching My Hero Academia, then $4 of your subscription is going to go to the production committee responsible for Naruto, and the other $4 is going to be going to the production committee responsible for My Hero Academia. So, speaking of production committees, this is the final step of Crunchyroll's business model, is that they sit on production committees as well. Funimation does too, by the way. Now, what that allows them to do is invest their own money in the creation of anime, which means that if that anime is successful, regardless of whether it's successful because of its presence on their service or not, they get to reap the benefits. It also allows them to license it easier, because being on the production committee means that not only do they have the license, not only do they get the license by default, it doesn't expire. So they don't have to worry about the term after a certain point in time, the license expiring, because they're on the production committee, because they invested their own money in the production of this anime. They get to keep the license indefinitely. So some of the shows that Crunchyroll was on the production committee of: Ancient Magus Bride, Kisnaver, Recovery of an MMO Junkie. Funny story about Recovery of an MMO Junkie. That English title was Crunchyroll's idea. Translated in Japanese is something else, but Recovery of an MMO Junkie was Crunchyroll's idea directly. They also help with Rising of the Shield Hero, Kimono Friends, and Junji Ito collections. Now, is a common misconception that arises a lot of the time from marketing going around in the US side of the anime industry. Revenue from overseas largely does not make it to the anime studios. The licensing fee is paid to the license holders, because even though the studio makes the anime, because they're making it as a contractor, it's not their property. Like, to give an analogy, if I'm hiring a contractor to build my house, when the house is done, it isn't their house. I hired them to build the house for me. Now it's my house once they're done with it. So the production committee hires the studio to make the anime. It's not the studio's anime. It's the production committee's anime. They hold the rights to it. They have the license to it. And it's theirs to sell to a company like Crunchyroll or a company like Funimation if they so desire. But the studio doesn't have a say in it unless they're sitting on the production committee. So the big question that arises with a lot of people who get into the idea of studying the business of anime is, how do we support the creators? How do the consumers support the people who put the pen to paper and make the anime? And the big disappointing answer is we don't. The long answer about that is, going through established channels, there's more or less no way to ensure that money spent on anime over here makes it into the hands of the anime studios. The longer answer is, due to the business model surrounding licensing, due to the production committee business model as a whole, and due to the confidentiality of contract details, because we don't know whether a studio gets revenues from merchandise for a particular anime, because we don't know the details of those contracts. There's no way to ensure that any money we spend on anime goes to help these studios improve their working conditions and pay their artists better. Most of the time, the studio has been paid for their work and has no reason to expect more from the work's success. They did the work for the contract, and a lot of the time it's time for them to move on to create the next anime for the next production committee. And a lot of people have a disdain for the production committee business model as a result. But when it gets down to it, trying to subvert the production committee business model would ultimately hurt the exact people we're trying to help. because a lot of people will say, well, then maybe we need to regulate the amount of anime being made, so so the studios don't have to overwork the animators so much. And that sounds like a good idea until we remember that the production committees want to make anime because they want to make money off of the anime. And if we were to reduce that and pull back the production of this industry, then what happens is a lot of people lose work. A lot of up and coming animators don't end up being able to get into the industry because there's not the capacity for them. Anime has been a growing industry for many years now, and the continued growth is what sustains it. What sustains it now. If we were to rein that back, then we'd see a shrink in the industry that would hurt a lot of people and make a lot of people lose jobs. So, here's some resources that I used and that you can use if you want to know more and about the business behind anime. SomeAnything.com is an aggregator that lists anime Blu-ray and DVD sales. It's not perfect because, in general, anime disc sales are tough to track and they're not very well reported. But it's a good start to get an idea of how successful an anime is, and it's a good start to get an idea of to start noticing patterns in what kind of anime gets successful and what kind of anime does not get successful. You also have the Association of Japanese Animators website, which puts out the annual anime industry report. They put it out every year, and the one they put out on that website in English is a year behind. I think you actually have to pay for the most up-to-date one, but I'm not entirely sure. Otakunomics is my otaku business podcast. I talk about stories and concepts from the business world behind anime. In addition, there's also some anime that's come out about the business behind anime. 2014's Shirobako is about the daily operation of an anime studio, and it's lauded for its portrayal of that kind of work. Keep Your Hands Off of Eizouken, which I believe either wrapped up recently or will be wrapping up soon. That's a very, very poignant, very well done long form allegory for the anime industry as a whole, from the animator point of view as well as from the production committee point of view. And then you have Animation Runner Kuromi, that's an OVA, a one shot from 2001, and then they did another episode in 2004, which is it's a funny, biting parody of the operations of an anime studio and the anime industry as a whole. Learn more about me, you can go to she'slostcontrol.net, which is where I list a lot of what I do. You can see links to some podcast appearances I've done, as well as including on Anime News Network's podcast, where I talk to the executive editor there. She'sLostControl.media is my company, She's Lost Control Media. Iyashike.moe is where I talk about the otaku subculture and the otaku lifestyle. You can check that out. Shinikiba.moe is my anime figure online store. 521rule.com is the 521 company which sells travel supplies for anime conventions. And then at TE Anubis on Twitter if you want to get at me there. And that's the end of the presentation. We're going to do a Q&A after this. Stay tuned.